This is my dad's truck, and it's absolutely filthy. He's been taking it out on every muddy back road he can find lately in the pursuit of his wildlife photography. So I decided to tag along to see if his story checks out, or if he's just been taking it out and having fun in the mud, knowing that I'd probably be the one to clean the truck for him. Alright, well, early one morning we were on our way after a quick pit stop at Tim Hortons to grab a couple coffees with half French vanilla in them. Now, if you haven't tried that, you should. But anyways, we were on a mission to find some wildlife to photograph, namely snowy owls, but also might come across some moose, deer, maybe a fox, coyotes, things like that. About 20 minutes into our trip, down a few gravel roads, we turned off onto a dirt road, which is the culprit of all the mud on the truck. Luckily, it was frozen this morning, but it hasn't been lately, and driving down these sorts of roads is going to get any vehicle full of mud pretty quick. My dad says that no amount of mud is going to stop him from getting the pictures he wants, and after looking at his truck, I believe him. Of course, it didn't take long for us to spot some wildlife and for my dad to be hanging his camera and giant 600mm lens out the open window, which has also contributed to the inside of the truck getting super dusty. Alright guys, well, I'll show you what we managed to shoot a little bit later in the video, but for now, it's time to get the truck back out to the studio and get to work on it. Did you have to get it this muddy though? Jeez. Alright, well, after a quick drive back to his house to drop him off, I then got the truck out to the studio and had a minute to really get a good look at how dirty he's managed to get it. If you guys remember, I detailed his truck for him about 5 months ago now, so it's a little hard for me to see it this bad in just a few short months. There's a pile of mud all around the truck, especially in the wheel wells, and of course some of that has been tracked inside too, but the main issue is all the gravel dust from the windows being open so much while he's out shooting. More on that later. For now though, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that thumbs up button if you're excited to see what we shot today. Alright, well, getting to work on the truck now, and like I mentioned a minute ago, I detailed this for my dad about 5 months ago now. If you haven't seen that video, you should check it out. I actually stole the truck from him one weekend and he had no idea what I was doing, and then I surprised him with it after, so it was a pretty memorable one for me, but this time around I'm doing it because he simply doesn't have anywhere he can deal with mud like this, and I know he was getting tired of how much mud kept dropping on his driveway, so I figured I'd help him out considering he's getting older now and this wouldn't have been an easy job for him at all. Moving my way around the truck, and you guys have probably noticed that the dirt isn't overly stuck on the paint, which is a function of a couple of things, one being the fact that it hasn't been on here for more than a month or so, and the other being the ceramic spray coating I used last time I did the truck. Dirt just doesn't adhere quite as well, and it makes it easier to clean. Now, like I mentioned in the last video, mine and my dad's trucks were built only 2 months apart, though he had quite a few more kilometers on his than I do on mine. In the last 5 months, he's driven an additional 9,000 kilometers to my 3,000, so his truck has nearly 98,000 kilometers, whereas Ruby is sitting around 63,000. But honestly, that's not surprising at all, considering he's retired and drives around a ton for his photography, and I'm always at home working like a madman. Now as I spray out the door jambs here, you'll notice the truck is once again full of photography gear, so when I start on the interior, I'll give you a look at the goodies he's got in here. Okay, with the truck all covered in my megafoam, I'll quickly go around with my boar's hair detail brush, which is of course still on sale over at detailgeekautocare.com for a couple more days. The huge spring blowout sale ends this Sunday, March 31st at midnight, so be sure to snag what you need before then. The entire site is on sale with savings up to 40% and worldwide shipping is available. Alright, with the truck washed and dried now, it's time to remove all the gear and other stuff from inside, starting with this mount that my dad uses for his astrophotography, which from what I've seen requires a lot of specialized gear, and of course a big telescope, which just so happens to be inside this giant black bin. I guess this telescope is capable of tracking the stars and moving in conjunction with the Earth's rotation, allowing him to get some pretty spectacular images of distant stars and other celestial objects. Of course, that requires some electronics to control, which you'll see when I pull out the tripod he uses for that in a bit. Astrophotography is something I've dabbled in myself over the years, but never to this extent. Besides all this gear, my dad also has highly specialized software that allows him to process the hundreds and hundreds of images that he takes over dozens of hours just to create a single image. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but so is this giant 600mm lens he was using earlier today for shooting wildlife, which he actually recently went to Ecuador to do as well. I know in the last video you guys really enjoyed seeing some of his images, so I figured I'd include a few here as well. These are a couple of his favorites from his Ecuador trip. The first is a plate-billed toucan, the second is a vermilion flycatcher, and then the third here is a couple of buff-tailed coronets having a bit of a squabble. Pretty cool. Now as for astrophotography, here's a couple of his recent favorites. This one is a shot of a nebulosity in the constellation of Cygnus called Cygnus Wall, and this one is a shot of the Andromeda Galaxy. Both images took many hours of shooting and processing to produce, and as for what we managed to find this morning, well, we were pretty successful actually, as we happened upon some sharp-tailed grouse, saw a small herd of mule deer, a coyote, and even spotted a moose doing moose things, which is always fun to see. As for birds, we saw a short-eared owl, a couple of snowy owls, and then a rough-legged hawk. Okay, as I continue vacuuming here, you'll notice that the carpet is in really good shape still and definitely doesn't need to be extracted today since the rubber floor mats have kept it in like new condition, but there are a couple tiny little spots where there's a bit of embedded dirt that I'll just use the steamer on quick when I've got it out a little later on. Moving to cleaning all the plastic trim in here, and I'll of course use some of my all-purpose cleaner and then hit it with the steamer quick, as that'll take care of all the dirt here really easily. You can find the all-purpose cleaner on my website, where it also comes with a free dilution mixing bottle with markings right on the bottle, so you can easily mix up a 4:1 or 10:1 ratio as needed, or you can also buy it in a gallon jug if 16 ounces isn't quite enough. Now for the dirty leather here, I'll use my Detail Geek leather brush, which has nice soft bristles that can agitate in the seams really well and dig out any stuck on dirt. Of course, using it with my leather cleaner and then just wiping the seat clean with a dual pile microfiber towel. Okay, second last step here is to get all the glass cleaned with some of my glass cleaner and a waffle weave towel, both of which are on sale right now over at detailgeekautocare.com, where the huge spring blowout sale is on for a couple more days until Sunday, March 31st at midnight, so stock up on all your favorites before the sale is over. All right guys, well, a relatively quick 8 hours later and my dad's truck is looking sweet once again. But Dad, maybe lay off the mud for a little bit. Let things dry up a little bit more before you take it out again, because yeah, that was a lot of mud. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure you smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. I have to go deliver this back to my dad and hopefully make his day. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.